The storm raged as Dr. Robert Finch and his son, Casey, received a late-night call from Sheriff Harris. A body had been found in the woods. No ID, no signs of struggle. It was just wrong. At the morgue, the woman on the table was pale and unmarked, almost too perfect. Robert's experienced hands went to work, but something felt off. The body was unusually warm, too pristine for a corpse found in the elements. "It's as if she's been embalmed," Robert murmured, studying her flawless skin and undisturbed organs. "But there's no embalming fluid in her system." Casey frowned. "What does that mean? What happened to her?" Robert's brow furrowed. "We need to know who she is." The sheriff arrived with no new details. "No ID, no missing person reports," Harris said, shrugging. "We're stuck. Let me know if you find anything." But before they could finish the autopsy, the body shifted. Amelia Shaw's hand moved, just slightly, but it was enough. The body twitched again and Robert's focus shifted. Something unnatural was happening. The organs seemed unnaturally perfect. No decomposition, no decay. The body wasn't behaving as it should. "She's not dead?" Casey asked, his voice thick with disbelief. "I don't know," Robert said, his stomach tightening. "But there's something wrong with her. Something we're missing. Gah!" When they turned the body over, they saw a small, peculiar mark on her back. Something like a burn or a symbol, but too deliberate to be accidental. Casey touched it. The skin was unnaturally warm. "What the hell is this?" he muttered. As Robert examined the mark, the lights flickered. Robert stepped back. "We're not alone." Before Casey could react, the room plunged into darkness. The whispers grew louder, the temperature plummeting. And then, as suddenly as it had begun, the lights returned. Amelia Shaw's body was gone. Back at the sheriff's office, Robert, Casey, and Harris tried to make sense of what had just happened. Harris spoke up, his voice low. "There have been rumors for years. People gone missing, bodies found, but not dead. Some come back different, not right. Some disappear without a trace." Robert's heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean, come back different?" Harris hesitated. "I've heard talk of a cult, something tied to the woods. They believe in bringing people back, using them for something. A vessel. They might have tried it with her." Casey looked horrified. "A cult? You mean to tell me there's some group out here trying to bring people back to life?" "Not life. Not really," Robert murmured. "A vessel. Amelia Shaw was chosen for something. Something bigger." With no other leads, Robert insisted they investigate the old church in the hills, the place where the cult had allegedly been seen. The church was abandoned, overrun with ivy and shadowed by the night. The air felt wrong, heavy as they stepped inside. The altar was covered in cloths, and strange symbols had been drawn on the floor in chalk. "That's the same symbol from the morgue," Robert said, kneeling down to study it. "It's some kind of ritual, something dark." They moved through the church cautiously, but in the back corner, a trapdoor appeared, hidden beneath debris. They pried it open, revealing a narrow staircase leading into the depths below. Robert's flashlight cut through the darkness as they descended into a vast stone chamber. Shelves lined the walls, filled with jars and bones. The air was thick, with the smell of decay and something else, something ancient. At the center of the room, Amelia Shaw lay on an altar, her body twisted and unnatural, surrounded by candles. But there was something else. A presence in the room. The shadows felt alive, as though they were watching them. "We're too late," Robert whispered. "She's a vessel. This was their goal." Suddenly, the body twitched again. The air turned frigid. The room trembled. Amelia Shaw's eyes snapped open, black, empty, and she rose, her body jerking unnaturally. A low growl rumbled from her chest. "She's not alive," Casey said, his voice shaking. "What's happening?" "Stay back," Robert yelled, but it was too late. Amelia lunged, and Robert fired his gun. The bullet struck her in the chest, but she didn't flinch. She didn't slow. "Damn it," Robert shouted. "We're not going to win this with a gun." The shadow in the room grew, its shape shifting and contorting until it was a massive, dark presence. It was more than a spirit. It was an ancient force, something tied to the ritual they had discovered. "Get back!" Robert shouted, but Amelia's form moved with terrifying speed, grabbing Casey by the shoulder. The shadows seemed to grow, swallowing the light, as if the darkness itself was alive. Robert grabbed Casey, pulling him away from the altar. "We need to stop this, now." The room trembled. Robert rushed to the altar, grabbing the book that had been left behind, the book with the symbols. He quickly flipped through its pages, scanning for the chant that could undo this curse. "Dad," Casey cried, "we can't fight this thing. It's too strong." But Robert was already chanting the words from the book, his voice rising above the chaos. The air seemed to pulse with energy, and the shadows began to pull back, retreating from the light. The temperature in the room dropped even further, but Robert pressed on. With each word, the presence in the room seemed to weaken, the shadows growing thinner, more distant. Finally, with a final, resounding chant, the darkness receded. The room went silent, save for the distant rumble of thunder outside. Amelia Shaw's body collapsed onto the altar, lifeless once more. The shadow vanished, leaving only the cold, empty room. Robert and Casey stood in the chamber, panting, their bodies trembling from the intensity of what had just occurred. The book lay open on the altar, the symbols still glowing faintly in the dim light. "We did it," Casey said, his voice shaking. "But what was that? What did we just stop?" Robert ran a hand through his hair, exhaustion weighing heavily on him. "We stopped a ritual that could have opened a door to something much worse." They stood in silence for a moment, the weight of what had happened sinking in. "How do we stop it from coming back?" Casey asked. Robert looked down at the book, his expression grim. "I don't know, but we've closed the door for now, and if we're lucky, it will stay that way." But as they turned to leave the room, the whisper came again, soft, distant, but unmistakable. Robert froze. The air in the room shifted once more, a coldness creeping back into his bones. Amelia Shaw's body remained still, but the darkness never fully left. As they made their way back to the surface, Robert's thoughts lingered on the land and on the words he had heard. He couldn't shake the feeling that they had only postponed the inevitable. The town had been built on secrets, on rituals, and the darkness that had been waiting for centuries had only been momentarily contained. And in the back of his mind, he knew it would come back. It always did.